falling, I'll be there to prove. Yeah, that baby I got you. No matter the distance, no matter the hoops. Yeah, baby I got you. I got you. I got you. Baby I got you. I got you. Ocean in between.
How's everybody doing today? We are going to be talking about my opinion on the Tracksmith Eliot runner now that I've put 50 miles in the shoe. So let's jump right into that. First off, it's exciting to have a new brand come out with a shoe, or a brand that, is relatively well known that just hasn't been in the shoe game before, now coming out with their first running shoe. Honestly, I give them a lot of credit for coming out with their first iteration, really no shoe development experience, but they were working on this for a long, long time. And first off, I just want to say, I think they got it right as far as, coming out of the gates, first time creating a shoe and really creating something that is going to be a good shoe for runners to use. Now, we'll get into some talks about price point, everything like that in just a little bit. But overall, again, the shoe is good. I just want to start there. And I think they get a lot of credit for creating a shoe for the first time that really will work well for a lot of people. Now let's just jump right into the good. I want to start with the traction. This gum outsole, particularly in this color, I really, really like a lot. It's a very durable outsole. I think it's going to last for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. You can see literally like no wear whatsoever after 50 miles. It's gotten a little bit darker. I've not really hesitated to run on this, even in the rain or some wetter conditions. So overall, outsole is great. It's going to last a very long time. The second thing I really like is their combination of the Pebax midsole with the Pebax insole. What I mean about that, and for those of you who didn't know, there's actually part of their stack height built into the insole itself. And this is a Pebax, a softer Pebax, a little bit more familiar in some of those super shoes that you may imagine today, like the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, the Vaporfly from Nike, and their ZoomX foam in general. There's actually a significant, like 8 to 10 millimeters of stack height in this Pebax insole. It's a softer compound than the Pebax in the outsole, and what that really does is it creates a more firm and stable ride overall, but it still gives you some of that cushion through this softer insole. To give you some context, I'm a 240-pound runner. I've been using mostly those softer, squishier shoes that absorb a lot of the impact, sort of squish down and rebound off the ground lately. So this is a really nice balance for me, I think, to have in my rotation, where I'm able to use something that's a little bit firmer and a little bit more stable, but it doesn't really beat me up too much as far as me feeling the ground, again, because it's got this nice soft insole that combines well with a firmer outsole. It allows me to really use this as my daily trainer. I can use it from my shorter runs and easier runs where it's 3, 4, 5 miles, up to my middle distance runs, I'd say, where it's about 8 to 10 miles really tops for me. After 10 miles, I start to feel like it's a little bit too firm. Again, that's just more what I'm used to, what I'm familiar with my body. But overall, I just want to say that it's a positive experience and feel when I'm running in this firmer outsole combined with that softer insole. It creates a nice balance and really lets, again, someone like me who's into more of those modern, squishier, softer shoes get a little bit of the best of both worlds. Now, the last positive for me is not just the quality of the outsole, but the quality of the materials overall. And this really plays in largely to the price point, which we'll talk about again towards the end. There is really nice suede and leather detailing and materials used throughout the shoe. The stitching, everything about every single seam is practically flawless. The upper is very, very breathable. It's sort of this dual layer mesh with some overlays again around the laces that are really just actual leather and nice materials. You've got embroidery on the insole, real embroidery in there. So overall, there's a lot of details and quality in the build that again really jack up that price. And overall, whether you believe in the price or not, it creates a really nice shoe. And this shoe is a quality shoe, just like you would expect from anything from Tracksmith, where they sort of go above and beyond, use the best materials possible, really use a lot of quality and craftsmanship while they're creating their different products. And that does elevate the price, but it also does give a really nice product. And I gotta say, the overall quality is just a real big positive here. Where I think this shoe really does something different that a lot of shoes cannot in the running world is it really looks like a stylish casual shoe. You know, I live and work around New York City. If I have to go into the office, it's nice to be able to get a run in, even though I'm commuting into the city. When I was living within the city, I would ride my bike very often to work. Maybe I would do a run commute home, so that way I could shower off when I get back. But what this shoe does is you can really put this together with some formal wear in sort of that business casual space. A lot of the New York City offices, especially since the beginning of remote working and now sort of a hybrid work environment, you could wear this into work with something like a suit jacket, a dress shirt, have a pair of like warm tights underneath, or maybe shorts if it's warm enough. You could have a running friendly shirt under your top, and you just take off all those layers and you still have a shoe now that you're ready to go in and go for a run home, go for a run at lunch if you have access to a shower, and you still don't need a second pair of shoes to actually do the running, because this is really good enough for most of the offices this day. The sort of super formal has kind of come and gone. So I really think this combines well. I've worn it to work myself, and it does just fine as a work shoe that is also a really purpose-built runner. Now I want to jump over to the negatives, and the first thing is it's really just sort of a one-trick pony. It's a decent daily trainer, but it really doesn't do that well at higher paces. Even though it's got that more advanced Pebax foam, it's not really a race-inspired foam or a race-focused foam. This really just sides on the daily trainer entirely. And why I feel like that's a negative is there's a lot of shoes that do a lot more, that can combine that daily trainer effort with a little bit of an up-tempo effort, and they're a lot cheaper as well, which really kind of brings me to my negative, which is the price. If you're just a pure runner, this shoe really doesn't give you a lot for your money when it comes to the return in the running alone. It's not going to be much better than something like a Nova Blast, than something like the Nike Invincible Run Flyknit. There's other shoes out there that really fill that easy day and daily category for a lot less. This shoe does well in the daily trainer category, but for almost $200, that's about all it's good for. My second negative about this shoe is it is a rather low cut around the ankle here, and that does create a little bit of wiggle room when you tie it down nice and tight. There's a little bit of room for your ankle and your heel to move around within the pocket of this shoe, just because, again, it is not a lot of material between where your heel is going to sit inside the shoe and then the top of, the sides of your ankle. It creates a little bit of looseness throughout the shoe, especially on your first run before you really learn how to tie it down and get it to fit your foot. You can kind of resolve it with the runner's knot and the extra lace hole up here, but just be aware if you're someone who doesn't like to tie your shoes, too tight, it might be a little bit swimmy and your foot might be moving around a little bit just because of the really low cut you got here. And it's not a big problem, it's just something that you should be aware of if you like your shoes to really fit very snug and you don't like that feeling that you're moving around at all in the heel pocket. Now, the last thing I want to say after these first 50 miles in this shoe is that although I think the price and the combination of the price and what this shoe can do in the running side of things is a little bit limiting, I don't want to nail Tracksmith too hard for the price of the shoe as it stands. It's expensive, yes, and dollar for dollar, just like I said in the other video, there are other running shoes where you will get the same or sometimes even a better return in the running space for the money that it costs. But this quality and this type of shoe really doesn't exist too much in the running space. There are other brands that have tried to create sort of a luxury running shoe, but I think Tracksmith is sort of the king of the luxury running space. They create a lot of products that are made out of really good materials. They last for a really long time, and honestly, the quality has always been excellent. I've never had to throw out a single thing yet that I've ever bought from Tracksmith over 4 to 5 years because it just lasts so long. It's very breathable. It doesn't stick to you when it's wet. So that quality and the history of quality is there. and they've brought that into a shoe. It's a nice looking shoe. If you care about the materials, they're there to create, again, that price point that they've created in a Tracksmith product, but it's just a separate thing from the dollar for dollar running value. It's a luxury value that you get with the material and the build. Do you need embroidery in the insole? No. Is that going to bring you any benefit on the road? Absolutely not. Do you need leather or suede overlays on the top of the shoe? Is that going to bring you any value in your running? No. But it does bring up the price, and I think, you got to give them credit where credit's due. They created a good running shoe. It's expensive because of what it's made of, but it doesn't necessarily, when you open the box, when you go through that whole experience, if you've got a little extra money to burn, it's not a bad price for what you get out of the box and the whole experience of this Tracksmith shoe, just like everything else that comes from Tracksmith.